I was running a smma because I wanted to be like Iman Ghatzi. After about a month of sending emails, and I would say a couple hundred emails sent, I was able to finally book my first ever sales call. What kind of questions do I ask him? What if I say this? What if I say that? What if he doesn't show up? So about a year ago, I had my first ever sales call. At the time, I was running a smma because I wanted to be like Iman Ghatzi, and I was offering Facebook ads to the fitness industry. Very original, I know. At the time, I learned cold email to, go ahead and do outreach to people just because I was kind of a I didn't want to go ahead and cold call people. So I was like, oh, I'm just going to learn cold email because I don't have to talk to people and I can just sit behind a computer and email people. After about a month of sending emails, and I would say a couple hundred emails sent, I was able to finally book my first ever sales call with a company. This company was basically like a gadget type of fitness company that made a gadget to where, if you've ever been in the gym, you're tired of throwing your phone on the ground, and they made a gadget to where it was like a sticky device to where you can just put your phone right here, right next to your hip, and you could work out with your phone without having to throw it on the ground. And I remember as soon as he booked the meeting, I was so excited. I was like, holy shit, like I booked my first ever meeting. And to anybody who's ever run a agency of sort, you know how it feels to book your first ever meeting. You feel like on top of the world. But then as the days went by and as I got closer and closer to the sales call, I started to get nervous, right? I started to overthink in my head. I was like, oh my God, how am I gonna talk to this guy? What kind of questions do I ask him? What if I say this? What if I say that? What if he doesn't show up? And then the day of the meeting comes. After we, exchange pleasantries, say hi, hello, whatever, I go ahead and I start asking him a question, and I just start stuttering. I just start stuttering, and I'm like, well, and I'm just saying stupid shit like that, and I can't even speak to him properly. I just start stuttering. I get very nervous, and honestly, I was shaking a little bit. But long story short, at the end of the call, I asked him, oh, with all that being said, like, does it make sense to, explore this on the second call? And he straight up says, no. You're just saying no, and I'm just like, oh shit. And I end up hanging up on the call, and overall it was just an L experience. I learned from this lesson obviously, but it just made me feel like shit just because I was nervous, and I was even able to go through the actual sales process without having to fucking stutter and whatnot. So we're now going to talk about how you guys can avoid this mistake that I made, and how you can avoid going through some of the pains that I went through and be able to close clients, make a whole bunch of money with sales. So fast forward to now, a year later, I'm able to speak confidently to prospects. And while I still, from time to time do get nervous, I've been able to close multiple clients and been able to actually go through the entire sales process in a confident and overall good manner. So again, on this call, I'm going to show you how you can avoid going through the same mistakes that I went through, and how you can do the same and close a couple $100s, if not multiple 5-figure deals for your own agency or service. So the sales process that I'm going to teach you guys here today is called a 2-call close. Now, I'm by no means a professional, but this process has helped me a ton in closing clients. The goal of this video here is to help you guys close clients for your own agency. So like I mentioned, there's really 2 parts to this: the discovery call and the demo call, and I'm going to break down both for you here in this video. Let's just go ahead and get started with the discovery call. So this is the first call, and whenever you join, this is the first time that you ever meet with this prospect. Whenever you join this call, you want to exchange pleasantries, kind of break the ice here. So you can be like, oh, hi John, where are you calling from? How's the weather there? Blah blah blah. Just small talk, right? Just to kind of break the ice, kind of get started in this call. But then after about a minute or 2 of doing that and breaking the ice, you want to say, okay John, well, this is usually just how I structure my calls. On this first call, I'm not going to go through with any pricing or negotiations. The entire purpose of this first call here is to see if we're actually a good fit to work together, and if it actually makes sense for us to work together. If it does make sense for us to work together, we'll go ahead and schedule a second call, and I can really break down what we do. But on this first call, I'm just going to ask you a few questions and go from there. Does that sound good with you? And 9 times out of 10, if not 10 times out of 10, they're gonna say, yeah, that sounds fine. I've never had a prospect say, no, like that's not good with me. So don't worry about that. Just put that out there and just tell them, look, we're not going to go over anything on this call except for a few questions. Does that sound good with you? And they'll probably say yes. Then what you want to actually ask about in this call. So you're like, awesome, John. So why did you agree on a call with me here today? Are you trying to solve a specific problem, or what was kind of the main thing that piqued your interest here? And he's going to be like, oh, well, I was honestly just looking around and your email caught my eye, or they'll straight up tell you we have a problem with lead generation. If they do straight up tell you, that's a positive yes. Write that down. But most of the time they'll be like, yeah, I was just interested in what you guys had to offer here. And you'll be like, okay, I understand. Okay, what are you doing right now in terms of lead generation? And you can be like, well, we have referral base. We get our leads to referrals. And you're like, oh, that's awesome. So you get your leads to referrals. Why do you need more leads then? You want them to verbally say, we want more leads because we want a steady lead flow. And you want them to admit that they have a problem with getting leads. And then you want to ask them, okay, so why are you sticking to the referral method? Well, it's easy, safe, whatever. And then you want to say, okay, so what else have you tried in the past? They'll say, yeah, we tried paid ads in the past. Okay, well, how did that work out? Well, it did not. And you say, why? Well, because the agency that we're working with, we got no leads. And then you want to keep going over and over and over, asking why, till eventually you go through everything. They're like, yep, that's pretty much all we've done. Then what you want to ask is, okay, so what's your average deal size right now in terms of revenue? Well, you could be like, well, we make $10,000 per client. Okay, what's your closing rate? Like if you were to get, 10 meetings, how many of those would you think you'd be able to close? Well, we'd be able to close probably 20%. And you want to write all of this stuff down. You want to write down, okay, so $10,000 with the client, 20%. Then what you want to ask is, okay, so what service do you offer? And they'll be like, oh, we make Facebook ads for gyms. Okay, or we make Facebook ads. And like, okay, what industries do you want to work with? Oh, gyms, chiropractor centers, dentists, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, okay, so who do you want to target? And then you get the gist of it. You just want to ask, what service do they offer and what industries do they want to work with? Now, last question that I ask them usually, and this is a very good question. So you basically want to ask them, okay, John, so what if we were actually able to solve this problem here for you and book you these meetings? Now, this is all psychological. The reason you ask this question is that your prospect will be able to dream and verbalize the outcome here, making it more real in their head and letting them basically connect all of the dots. So you'd be like, okay, John, so what if we were actually able to add an extra $40,000 in revenue in 6 months with our AI outbound system? And then they'll be like, oh, well, I could hire more people. I could pay off my mortgage. I'd be able to help my family. You want to basically get them to visualize the success that you could help them achieve. After you've gone through all the questions and, they look good all across on the board, you're gonna be like, okay, so just based off what you said, we definitely feel like we can help you guys out and add an extra $40,000 in revenue using our AI outbound system. But like I mentioned, this call isn't really for selling, so let's get you on a second call so that I can break down everything here. Once you say that, you're like, okay, so does Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern work for you, or Tuesday at 4? It's kind of like a yes or yes, and they'll say Tuesday, whatever. Then right before you leave the call, you want to say, okay, John, so in the next call, I'm going to break down our exact methods to how we can help you add an extra $40,000 in revenue using our AI outbound system. You'll be able to do this and this, and you'll also be able to do this. You kind of want to tease them, tell them, okay, in the next call, I'm going to show you all of it. And then boom, that's the discovery call done. Now, when it comes to the demo call, you basically want to hop in. Oh, hi, John. How are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. Exchange pleasantries, same type of deal. Then what you want to say is, okay, so in this call, I'm going to show you how we can, whatever your offer is, add an extra $40,000. But before we get to that, I'm going to quickly just recap over what we talked about in the last call, just to make sure that the information is correct. So you want to go over all the questions that you asked in the last call. Say, okay, so you said that your closing rate is 20%, you make $40,000 per revenue, blah, 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 that type of thing. Once you've gone through all the questions and they verify that it's correct, you want to explain who you are and what you do. Hey John, so this is basically how we work here. We are a lead generation agency that connects you with your ideal prospect. What we do is pretty straightforward. We go out there and we build you a list of your ideal clients depending on the industry, the state that they're in, what type of people, what job titles, and all of that stuff. Once we found out the people that you want to target based off of some of these filters, what we'll do is we'll create an offer around your guys' value proposition. So whatever your value proposition is, maybe it's creating Facebook ads for gyms, we'll come up with the offer that says something like, we help gyms increase their revenue with Facebook ads. Then once we have the offer and the ideal client, what we basically do is plug both of those two things into our outbound system, basically send out messages every single day. Think of it like this, John. We're putting your value proposition in front of thousands of your ideal prospects every single day. So that's just a quick little breakdown. Finally, for pricing, you want to use the info from the last call. And I like to do what I call regular and worst case scenario. Well, John, based off what you said that one client is worth $10,000 to you, and you guys close 20% of your meetings. Yeah, we do. We usually book 8 to 10 meetings every single month. So let's say for the entire year, we book you 100 meetings and you close 20%, since you said your closing rate is 20%. Well, that would mean you guys get $200,000 in revenue. How our pricing would work is today you pay us a $3,000 setup fee. This setup fee is to set up all the emails, the domains, script writing, the leads, and whatnot. And then from there, if you pay that one-time fee, you pay us $300 per meeting. So now if we actually booked you these 100 meetings for the year, and you'd pay us this $3,000 setup fee here, that would mean that in total for the year, you'd pay us $33,000 and you would make $200,000. Now let's say worst case scenario, my computer breaks down and we're only able to book you guys 80 meetings, and let's say you only close 10% of them. Well, that would still mean that you guys would make $80,000 and you would pay us for the year $27,000. With all that being said, John, does it make sense for us to work? This is what is called a logical close. You basically show them that no matter what, they're gonna make money and not lose anything, because you sold them the regular on average case scenario and the worst case scenario. And you always want to try to close the deal with the question. You want them to say either yes or oh, maybe no. Now, there's a lot of other stuff that comes with closing. Closing is like the final part of the sale that I won't go over on this call, but this logical close will work pretty fucking well. But if you do want to know more about how to handle closing and objections and whatnot, I'll leave a link in the description of a video that Alex Hermosi did. It's literally 1 hour of sales training. He goes over all the possible objections that prospect might have, like I don't have enough money, or I need to talk to somebody for this, blah blah blah. Goes over how to actually counter them. And then from there, you want to be like, okay, you can keep going on the worst case scenario thing. You can keep lowering the number and whatnot until they finally say yes. When they say yes, you want to be like, okay, John, with all that being said, does it make sense to move forward? They're like, yes. And then from there, you basically send them the invoice, send them the contract. You have gotten yourself your first ever client using this 2-call close process. With all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one.